therein has been provided. This is a meeting of the Board of Education of Somerset Hills at which formal action may be taken. The public will have an opportunity to be heard as shown on the agenda. Roll call, please.
Mr. Baker?
Here.
Ms. Ballard? Ms. Cooper? Here. Mrs. DeGrandpre?
Here.
Ms. Gills?
Here.
Mr. Joyce? Ms. Nathans?
Here.
Mrs. Santoro?
Here.
Mrs. Rye?
Here.
And Mrs. Frenda.
Here. Okay. Executive session. The Open Public Meetings Act authorizes a public body to exclude the public from that portion of a meeting at which specified topics are to be discussed under the circumstances where the public consideration of such topics will clearly endanger the public, or where the personal privacy or guaranteed rights of individuals whose activities or affairs are to be discussed would be clearly in danger of unwarranted invasions, and the matters about to be presented for discussion clearly meet the circumstances test of such act. The Board of Education of Somerset Hills now adjourns its public session to reconvene an executive session for the purpose of discussing the following: personnel, student matters, contracts, negotiations, and litigation. Can I get a motion to go into executive, please? Ms. Nathans, and a second? Ms. Cooper, thank you. Everybody, thank you so much for being here this evening. I know we have a lot of special things to take care of, so I don't want to waste any time. If you could all rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if I could ask the board before they take their seats to take a seat in the audience, we have a special performance before we get started with our report of the superintendent.
Right. Well, good evening, everybody. It's another great night here in Somerset Hills, and the arts are indeed alive and well here at Bernards High School and in Somerset Hills School District. And we have our world-famous madrigals here to perform for us, and Mr. Lapine certainly has joined us, and honestly, it's just a treat and a pleasure to be able to open up our meeting with you all. So I'm going to turn it over to you and the gang, and thank you so much on behalf of the board for coming tonight.
Thanks for the invitation. We really appreciate it. I want to let the students do the talking. So, Kaylee, start us off.
All right, so the first song that we were singing is called Swept Away. It's by Sarah Cartel, and it's about this girl who's just finding her inner peace and being grounded in the midst of the storm.
We're going to ask the group to stay up here because we do have some proclamations and some recognitions for you tonight, but I can't think of a better way to start a meeting than what just happened. So really an inspiration. So we have some recognitions for the group here. We're going to start with your fearless leader, Mr. Lapine. We have a formal recognition for you on behalf of the board. We do. This is a resolution honoring the Madrigals director, Mr. Matthew Lapine, for exemplary dedication in guiding the Madrigals to an extraordinary placement of grand champions at the 32nd Annual Concert, Show, Jazz, and Pop Choir Invitational in March of 2024. Whereas the Somerset Hills Board of Education gives special honor and commendation to esteemed educators who exemplify dedication, care, and mastery in teaching, who ignite a passion in students, and who cultivate student excellence at the highest level of performance. That's you. Whereas Mr. Matthew Lapine is part of Bernards High School and serves as an inspiration to his students and staff members alike, now therefore be it resolved by the Somerset Hills Board of Education that the members of the board hereby commend Mr. Matthew Lapine for his commitment to the BHS choral program, outstanding leadership, and months of dedication and very hard work. When the Somerset Hills Board of Education adjourns this day, it does so in honor of the achievements earned by you, Matthew. The Board of Education Secretary is directed to have this resolution reflected in the permanent minutes of the Somerset Hills Board of Education on this 24th day of April 2024. Congratulations.
Thank you.
My pleasure. So not to be outdone, we have recognitions for the Madrigals as well. I'm going to read one of them, but all of you will be receiving the recognition. And the resolution will honor a particular student for his or her contribution to the extraordinary choral accomplishment at the 32nd Annual Concert, Show, Jazz, and Pop Choir Invitational. Whereas the Somerset Hills Board of Education gives special honor and commendation to dedicated students who perform and compete at the highest musical level with effort, responsibility, and a positive attitude. Whereas a particular student is creatively engaged in music making for meaningful purposes, sees merit in participating in the arts, and exemplifies grit and determination in honing their craft. Whereas a particular student is part of the Bernards High School and serves as an inspiration to their peers and the staff members alike. Now therefore be it resolved by the Somerset Hills Board of Education that the members of the board hereby commend these students for extraordinary accomplishments along with the entire Madrigals ensemble as they were named grand champions. When the Somerset Hills Board of Education adjourns this day, it does so in honor of the achievements earned by these students, and the Board of Education Secretary is directed to have this resolution reflected in the permanent minutes of the Somerset Hills Board of Education on this 24th day of April 2024. So if I could get some assistance, that'd be great. Okay, so our first honoree is Jonas Apostolakos. Here you go. And Jonas, I apologize on the name. I have 2 practice sessions before every board meeting on names. Pretty well, yeah. But I even get it spaced out. So, Madeline Bozak. Neil Chayanath. Ella Domratoski. Gabrielle DiNicola. Spencer Depew was not able to be with us tonight. Depew, sorry.
It's okay.
Yes.
Nope, we'll enjoy that tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. Roast me appropriately.
No,
Yes.
not you.
Okay. George Elkins.
He's not here.
All right.
It's okay.
Eva Fernandez. Megan Fitzpatrick. Kyle Garcia. Alice Gonzalez. Maddie Hollier. Julia Karpinski. Monique Kafala-Dori. Aiden Kinsey. Georgia Kissel. Maxwell Lenchi. Bridget McGee. Meredith Mitchell. Julia Schmidt. She's not here. Okay. Isabel Sciarra. Abigail Sebastian wasn't able to be with us tonight. Alexis Sidlowski. And lastly, Kaylee Welsh. Congratulations to all of the Madrigals, and thanks so much for performing for us this evening. Yep, you're free to go. Yep. Yeah. How are you?
Very well done.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you. Great night. So next on our presentation tonight is a presentation about the intergenerational prom that is going to be taking place at Bernards High School on May 3rd, 2024. And I'm going to welcome Ms. Stephanie Lesnick and Mr. Greg D. Giacchino.
And Shelby Rich.
How are you? Good.
I'd like to thank the entire Board of Education and the administration for allowing us to speak here tonight. We're here just to basically invite everyone at the table here, the administration, Board of Ed. We appreciate Dr. Brochel inviting us, and Miss Dr. Butler. You were Miss Butler before. Congratulations. And Mr. Marco and all the Board of Education members. The prom started back, I'll give you a quick synopsis. I know you have a long evening ahead of you. Quick synopsis, we started this in 2008, brought it from Morristown High School, went to the prom there as part of my duties as a dean of students, and fell in love with the entire idea of this prom. I call it prom, it's a dinner dance kind of thing. And brought it here, and it's been nothing but a success ever since, in large part due to the students here and to the people that work on the outside and the people on the inside. Ann Connor was the first person, a key club advisor, that helped with this, and we now have Dan Kaplan, who is phenomenal, energetic, and dare I say popular. Downplay that. I mean, popular is not the proper adjective. It's way beyond that. And we'd love to see everyone here tonight. If you can come, we'd appreciate it. I know none of us, not everyone here is a senior citizen, but You don't have to be a senior citizen to come and join us. We have a beautiful dinner, a lot of food. We'll set you up in your own table. My goal is to see at least one, and there's 8 people at a table, at least one table of Board of Ed and administration personnel at the table if we can. If you can just watch the students and the senior citizens interact with each other, it's just, it'll melt your heart. It certainly has done that to my heart. And one more before I turn it over to Stephanie Lesnick, who is phenomenal. The energy Stephanie has is just incredible, and you'll see that come out in just a second here. We are hoping to get as many seniors as possible. We have not done this for 5 years now. 2019 was the last prom that we ran, and our numbers right now are a little bit on the lower side. So we're reaching out to anyone on the board here, anyone in the audience. If you know of any senior citizens in the community, any senior citizen Bernards High School graduates, or Bernards High School alumni or senior citizens, and even if they're a little short of being senior citizen age, that's fine. It's not, I know people don't like to do that, and I got in trouble the other day inviting someone that wasn't a senior citizen, but I just invited her because people who help and offer their services and donations and et cetera, we'd love to see everyone there. The people who donate the food pretty much can never come because they're all in the restaurant business, and Friday night obviously is a very busy night. So again, we thank you for this opportunity, and we hope to see as many of you as we can there, and we thank you for your continued support. You've been supportive ever since we started this, and we thank you for that. There's a lot that goes into it and a lot that the school does, and we do appreciate it. Having said that, Stephanie Lesnick.
Before I speak, I'm going to introduce Shelby Rich, who is the president of the Key Club and just an amazing asset to the Key Club and to the high school. So, Shelby.
I'm just gonna talk a little bit about what we're doing as a board and as the Key Club from the student perspective. We already elected our board for next year, so the board from this year and the board for next year are working together. We have I think 5 different committees. There's a decorations committee, advertising committee, entertainment committee, and yeah, we have about 60 volunteers so far, and these volunteers can sign up for the specific committee that they want to work with, and we met as committees. We made an Amazon wish list and are ordering all the stuff, the decorations that we need. The theme is Hollywood red carpet, so it's going to be super fun. None of us have experienced this before, and we've only heard good things, so we're all super excited. There will be a photographer there, DJ, games. So yeah, we're super excited and hope to see some of you there.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Stephanie Lesnick. I am a proud mom of 2 Bernards High School alumni, Harrison, class of 2021, and Matthew, class of 2023. I first became involved in the Intergenerational prom in 2019, the last one that we were able to have, for the obvious reason. 2 of my dear friends were working with Greg as the community co-chairs. I helped pick up donated items from restaurants around town and donated items that were given as door prizes for the evening. And then later in the evening, I helped out in the kitchen because the kids serve our senior guests dinner in the evening, and it's a wonderful evening. When Mr. Kaplan asked if I could help again this year, I couldn't say no. And not just because I can't say no to that man, but because this is probably, of all of the many, many, many events that I have volunteered for, this is probably one of my favorite. To see the interaction between the students and our senior citizens it's just a joy to behold, as they say. It is really one of the best parts of the evening. We are inviting you all to come and join us and walk the red carpet and just enjoy our evening. And if anybody in the audience or anybody on the board knows of any senior citizens living within the Somerset Hills School District, please let us know. Please let them know. We would love to have them. And we can also use some volunteers. So if anybody would like to volunteer, please join us. I'd like to just give these to you guys. It's just invitations, so you've got all of everything in black. And thank you so much for letting us speak this evening. Thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda is a series of reports from our student representatives. We're going to start with our friends from Bernardsville Middle School. We have Amaya Ram and Isabella Pagnotta.
Good evening, everyone. I am Isabella Pagnotta, and I am an 8th grader in Bernardsville Middle School. My main race that I run is a 400 meter, which is 1 lap around the track, and so far my best time is 1 minute and 8 seconds. With track being a highly competitive sport, many events come along with that. Sprinting events involve the 100 meter, 200 meter, and the 400 meter. Distance events include the 800 meter, and the 1600 meter, while field events include shot put and long jump. Track and field in the middle school is one of the most popular sports with more than 80 participants in grades 5 through 8. We have had 2 meets so far, one which we hosted 3 teams at our high school track, and another away meet taking place at Bridgewater Middle School. Although track may just seem like running, it is so much more than that. Track meets are a fun way to hang out with friends and socialize while competing against other schools, cheering on teammates, as well as getting an extra exercise. Personally, I enjoy track because I love hanging out with my friends and competing in meets. In the past 2 years, which I have done track at the school, I have felt my speed has improved so much, which I am so proud of. I first joined track because it would make me build up speed, which is great for my main sport, soccer, and I get to see my friends more often. As it is my last season of track with the middle school, I am so grateful for my experience, which came along with that. And now I will turn things over to Amaya. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amaya Ram, and I'm in 7th grade. I have been on the Culture and Climate team for the past 2 years. Culture and Climate is a group of 6th, 7th, and 8th graders that helps plan spirit days and events to brighten students' days. These events encourage school spirit and help students get excited about BMS. In the past year, we have planned single-day events like Pie Day and Spaghetti Day, both of which were big hits among students. We meet every few weeks to discuss the climate of the school and what we can do to improve it. Our group is led by Dr. Rizzuto and Ms. Pasquarelli. A couple of months ago, Culture and Climate wanted to have a single-day event, National Librarian Day, which is on April 16th. However, I thought that we could make that event even bigger and make it span a whole week. After reading multiple articles with ideas and suggestions on how to have a successful book-themed week at school, I selected the events that I thought would be the most popular among students. This included a library scavenger hunt, posters in the cafeteria that had play-on-word slogans from books relating to food, time and literacy class to write book reviews which would be displayed for all of BMS on a bulletin board, a book character dress-up day, and a school-themed graphic novel cover design contest. Additionally, Ms. Pasquarelli had a banner made for Ms. Gash thanking her for all of the stellar contributions she makes to the BMS library. We celebrated this 2 weeks ago, and I can say with confidence that these activities helped encourage reading and spread the word about National Librarian Day, which is what this week was centered around. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ladies, for such a great report. You guys did terrific. We have Madison Ferrugia here for the high school report. No. Not Madison, okay. No. Gabby, all right. Okay, we have Gabby, and here's your speech.
Thank you. Yeah, Madison couldn't be here tonight, so it's just me tonight. Okay. All right, there we are. Spring sports have taken off, and Bernards is so far crushing it. Boys lacrosse is currently undefeated, and girls lacrosse has an impressive record of 7-1. Baseball is currently first in their division, with a record of 5-3 with 1 game tied, and softball has a current record of 6-3. Junior prom was last Thursday, held at Basking Ridge Country Club. It was a hit as always, and all the hard work of the Junior Class Council paid off, allowing juniors and their dates to have a memorable and fun night. The senior class council is busy this week, as they are hosting a trivia night tomorrow in the cafeteria. Students have formed groups from 5 to 8 and asked a faculty member from the school to help them out, and all handed in the $10 fee. At the end of the night, the group that is able to get the most questions correct will get half of the admittance fee money, so everyone is trying to be on their A game. Decision day for seniors, which was previously on May 1st, is now moved back to Monday, May 20th, due to delays with the FAFSA forms. Don't worry though, students are rather preoccupied preparing for AP testing, which will run from May 6th to May 17th. The school student council just put on our first wall of honor induction since COVID, honoring Mitchell Collins, Christine Hoffbeck, Laylee Lichtenfeld, Lisa Audenweller, Frank Robertson, Karen Ublek, and Captain Robert Terry, all Bernards alums who have gone above and beyond in their life after Bernards. Peer Leadership just notified the new students who will be joining Peer Leaders for the 2024-2025 school year. There is a meeting on Friday to welcome all new members, and they will begin discussing activities to welcome the incoming freshmen in the late spring and early fall. National Honor Society also just announced their newest junior members. One of the school's favorite volunteer organizations, Garden Club, continues to offer great opportunities for all students to volunteer. Recently, volunteer high school students took a bus to Bedwell and worked with Bedwell students on their front courtyard, building relationships and brightening up the nature around Bedwell. The music department at Bernards has been working overtime to bring wonderful performances together for the school and the greater community. Bernards Band is soon to be hosting a senior spotlight, where seniors get a chance to perform a piece of their choosing. The choir department recently put on their annual Pops Night performance, a themed night for singers to showcase their talent. This year's theme was Disney, as voted by choir students, and in addition to ensemble numbers, individual students performed solos and small group performances. Madrigals, the audition-based choir at Bernards, is an ensemble that has played a very significant role in my time at Bernards. Recently, we attended the Roxbury Invitational, a festival where choirs from all over New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and New York compete for rankings in various categories. Though it was our first year competing, Bernards Madrigals placed first overall in the choir ensemble category. This was a major accomplishment for the group, and we are so glad that we've been recognized by the board today for our accomplishments and for Mr. Lepine's contribution. Thank you very much.
Thank you for indulging me tonight as we went out of order a little bit on the agenda as far as recognitions, but I felt like it was a great kickoff with the Madrigals. Wanted to take a moment to highlight two students and a group of faculty members who recently did something really noteworthy, really inspirational, and really impactful for not only the Bernardsville community, but reaches far outside of Bernardsville and Somerset Hills. So I am going to ask Andalora Parente to come on up for a moment, and Sophia Parente. So, ladies, what you did was extremely inspirational, and for the benefit of the group here that's here tonight, I want to point out that you were the spearhead behind a St. Baldrick's event, a charity event, that where some of your classmates, about 20 or so of them, got together and cut their hair off for charity. And I'd never been... And parents. One parent. And if I may, the day after the event, rumors, how those kind of happen sometimes? There was a very quickly generated rumor that Miss Clark also cut her hair off. because a colleague had a misguided email that everybody misunderstood. So, ladies, just so you know, I grabbed the first person I could find, and Miss DeMarco and I went right over to Miss Clark's classroom. She did. She did. She didn't brave the razor, but there was so much inspiration in the room that night, and I personally witnessed people that didn't intend on coming to cut their hair, and they did it, and they went through with it, and they really felt a greater contribution, not just to this high school, but to pediatric cancer around the world. And you know, that paying it forward component to all of this is something that you wish every single kid that comes through these doors understands that concept, and I'm sure many of them do, but you all had the opportunity to kind of put it on display. And it was great to see, very, very inspirational, and I'm certain you and your family are proud of you. I know I am, and you know, I'm proud to say, you know, A, that I met you, and you know, you're one of my kids, and that's a cool thing. So we do have a resolution for the two of you, and I'm not going to read both, but I'm going to read one. Okay. So a resolution honoring Sophia and Andalora for their for their role in the extraordinary March 7th, 2024 St. Baldrick's event in honor of their friend Campbell Grace Hoyt. Whereas the Somerset Hills Board of Education gives special honor and commendation to students who perform selfless acts for the betterment of others. Whereas Sophia and Andalora recruited Shavee participants and barbers, solicited donations and door prizes, and organized countless details with grit and determination. Whereas the young ladies here are part of Bernard's High School Flutterflies, and they serve as an inspiration to their peers and staff members alike, myself included. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Somerset Hills Board of Education that the members of the Board of Education hereby commend you two for extraordinary accomplishment in seeing the St. Baldrick's event from concept to completion, an event that more than doubled its initial goal of $10,000 by raising $24,150. In hopes of conquering childhood cancer. When the Somerset Hills Board of Education adjourns this day, it does so in honor of the achievements earned by these two young ladies. The board secretary is directed to have this resolution reflected in the permanent minutes of the Somerset Hills Board of Education on this day, the 24th day of April 2024. Young ladies, I wish you congratulations, but I want to point out to the crowd that it's my understanding that you can continue to give to the St. Baldrick's Foundation, right? Even though it's over here, you can go online and such. So we're going to push that out to the community for one final push to see if we can get you to 30,000 or whatever. Okay? So as in many cases, the students didn't act alone, and they had some great support and guidance from three of our high school faculty members that are here with us tonight. And they are no strangers to this room, as they've been recognized for other things across the school. But Ms. Hunkley, if you could come on up with Ms. Clark and with Ms. O'Brien. Come on up. So we want to recognize you too. You have, certainly the three of you have a tremendous amount of passion and dedication and drive and support for the kids that you serve. And I see it in the hallways, I see it in events like this, and it certainly does not go unrecognized by the Board of Education, which is why we're here tonight to honor your work. So we have a resolution for you as well. Whereas the Somerset Hills Board of Education gives special honor to you ladies and commendation to esteemed educators who exemplify dedication to their students in the classroom and beyond. Whereas these faculty members are part of the high school and serve to inspire students and to inspire staff members alike with kindness and helpfulness. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Somerset Hills Board of Education that the members of the board hereby commend these faculty members for their commitment to supporting student event organizers and helping to orchestrate a successful fundraiser, which took over 6 months of planning and ultimately more than doubled its initial goal of $10,000 by raising $24,150. When the Somerset Hills Board of Education adjourns on this day, it does so in honor of your achievements. The board secretary is directed to have this resolution reflected in the permanent minutes of the Somerset Hills Board of Education on this 24th day of April 2024. You all have done beautiful work in this area, and your passion and your energy in a lot of ways cannot be recaptured enough, and I wish I could multiply it. You just have done beautiful work, and it really does mean a lot, not only to the school, not only to the school district, but to this greater area. And please don't forget that. You're welcome.
Next year, we're going to get Dr. Brushel to.
I'm gonna get.
That's a rumor.
I'm gonna get. Yeah. You're pretty good at it. Yeah. Last but not least, we have Fernando Collado. If you could come on up, my friend. So recently, the school board, many of us were able to attend a county level recognition of particular students who are what we call unsung heroes. And something really impactful happened that night for me as an educator and for everybody in the audience. It comes to no surprise that the staff member that honored you became emotional and was moved to tears when talking about your experience at the high school, when talking about how strongly they felt about where you are today in comparison to where you started in 9th grade. Again, they became emotional, and you did something that all of us were thinking, like, put your arm around her, you know, really console her, and without even thinking about it, you made that adult's life better. And it's important that you understand the impact that you have on us in addition to the school having an impact on you. And you've given us quite a bit in your time here at the high school. I haven't known you all that long, but I find you to be a fine young man with a high level of character and somebody that I'm proud of. And I want to know, the whole community here to know how proud I am of you and that you're one of ours as well. So we have a resolution for you as well. This has been a big month for you. The board too is recognizing your positive attitude, your strong leadership skills, and a quiet resilience that really can't be matched. And it was recently recognized and celebrated at the 2024 School Board Association Somerset County Unsung Hero Award ceremony. Whereas the Somerset Hills Board of Education gives special honor and commendation to dedicated students who exhibit exceptional character traits and good citizenship. Whereas Fernando Collado is engaged in creating a safe and inclusive climate that supports and inspires and uplifts those around him, adults included, and that makes Bernard's High School a better place. Now therefore be it resolved by the Somerset Hills Board of Education that the members of the Board of Education hereby commend Fernando Collado for your strong character, your upbeat attitude, your consistent leadership skills, and a quiet resilience in the face of personal challenge. When the Somerset Hills Board of Education adjourns on this day, it does so in honor of the achievements earned by Fernando Collado, and the board's secretary is directed to have this resolution reflected in the permanent minutes of the Somerset Hills Board of Education on this 24th day of April 2024. Fernando, on behalf of the board, I wish you congratulations. Okay, moving along here. Somerset Hills Education Foundation has been hard at work. From what I understand, they have also added an additional member to the board there, which would be a familiar face to this group. Kathy Tober is a new trustee with Chef, and they have announced the 2024 digital campaign. There are some planned events that are going to be taking place through the remainder of the calendar year, and we are certainly excited to support them and to support Ms. Christie and all of Chef. Some information will be forthcoming to all of our homes and through our normal communication challenges as they support or a host of areas inside of the school district. Again, we've had the Magda goals that have been covered in the press and certainly recognized tonight at great length, and that was some big news that came from the Magda goals this month. In March, we had a budget retreat, and it's my understanding that there was the first budget retreat in a long time for the public and for the board. We spent about 4 hours on a Saturday together and went through a host of different areas in our budget in order to avail that information to the board and to the public regarding all of the different nuances of our budget, what that process looks like, how does it all kind of come together. We then dovetailed that into a tentative budget presentation at our March meeting, and tonight, in mere moments, we will have a formal budget presentation and hearing for the public. So we got a lot out of that as well. It was Read Across America Week recently at Bedwell. In 2024, or actually in March, we celebrated Read Across America. And we had musical performances and guest speakers at Bedwell. Throughout the week, students participated in Drop Everything and Read Time. And we had a host of our K-2 families were treated to a special musical performance. Students were able to sing popular songs with a twist. We hosted a pajama day. I did not participate in that per se, but we did host one. It was very popular with the kids. And all in the focusing in the joy of literacy and in the joy of promoting literacy with and for all of our students. We have another update from, as we did last month, from our digital art classes, and we have some examples there that have been taking place in Amy Newman's digital art classes, and the work that they are executing has just been inspiring. It is that time of year where We are recruiting for staff for the next school year, so we've been out hitting the road. I've been with our human resources specialist, Ms. Meehan, at different job fairs, different recruiting fairs. I would remind folks that knows anybody that may be interested in different positions in the field of education to check our website for the most accurate and up-to-date vacancies. You'll see on the slide here, we do have a long-term replacement for a physical education teacher at the high school, a school counselor and a music teacher at the middle school, and an academic support teacher and a special education teacher in the area of elementary at Bedwell, among others. So check our website. Recently, we had our high school musicians take a trip down to Disney, and Mr. Taisler has brought 44 talented musicians from our concert band and our orchestra at the high school to Walt Disney World, and that really was great to see. They were able to get feedback and honest assessments from judges that spanned the areas of sound quality, technical accuracy, general musicality, management of instruments, and stage presence. The final category, they earned a perfect score for both ensembles in the area of stage presence, which is a very big deal. They received positive recognition, but in talking with the teacher, they really were ignited by the overall critique from the judges in order to continue to hone their craft. So a very successful trip down to Disney, and got a lot of great feedback about that. We honored Fernando tonight as the Unsung Hero Award, and that was covered in the Burnersville News as well, and also such a great night. So we have a Did You Hear slide here. Did you hear that our STEM team at Bernards High School took first place out of 16 teams on April 16th at a STEM event at Pascack Valley High School. They were challenged to design and build a wind turbine that yielded the most revolutions per minute while attempting to maintain a fixed position in a tub of water. Prior to that, they were entertained with a keynote address from an engineer who is on the front lines of developing a wind farm 40 miles out in the ocean. So it was a very productive day for them from an application perspective and also learning in the field as well. Did you know that Bernardsville Middle School has 137 5th through 8th graders participating in spring sports, and that is currently 1/3 of the middle school's population. Interestingly, that we had a member from the track and field team present tonight. That is a significant number of students on those teams, and it really is great to see so many students that wish to participate. And lastly, did you see we had a great collaboration between the high school garden club and our friends down at Bedwell as they revitalized the Bedwell Butterfly Garden. And for those of you that can't see the PowerPoint, I just want to point out that the butterfly is moving, and that was a big success in the office when we were putting this together. So, very happy about that. We're going to go into our budget retreat as well. I'm sorry, we're going to go into our formal budget presentation as well. In the spirit of numbers, this is actually our second meeting in a row. For those of you that may not be aware, that the date is actually a palindrome. So that means that the number reads the same forwards and backwards. So last week or last month it was 3/13, and today it's 4/24/24. So just a small nugget of information for our budget appetite. Yeah. So we're going to make a transition into the budget here. Again, this is our third crack at public presentations regarding what we have put together for budget for next year. This is probably the highest level of the presentation. So we started off with, a deep, robust kickoff in March, early March, followed by a tentative hearing in the middle of March, and then a final hearing today. So our role here really is to be able to balance fiscal responsibility with enhancing our educational programs. You can't have that balance get out of whack. So it's got to be level, and that's the spirit in which we make decisions administratively, and that's the spirit in which we deliver a budget to the board and ultimately to the community, to be able to understand that we have to have a balance between the taxpayers and the needs of the district. And so that consistently remains a goal there. From a priority perspective, we had a desire to increase opportunities for our students. Specifically, we wanted to maintain what our class sizes currently are. We wanted to introduce bilingual programming at Bedwell. We wanted to introduce language and learning disabilities programming at Bedwell as well. And we wanted to support and grow our advanced placement course offerings. Secondarily, we wanted to enhance what we currently had by providing new opportunities for kids in athletics, new opportunities for kids in extracurricular opportunities, supporting professional development, and supporting our curricular responsibilities as well. And our third priority was in the area of infrastructure and operations. We wanted to address transportation of hazardous routes in and around Bernardsville to the extent that we could, and we've done that through this budget. We wanted to enhance technology, communications, and security as well, and we've been able to do that. We're projecting 1,628 students spread throughout the district. And from a curriculum perspective, we have a budget here that's an increase of $60,550, and it supports a host of areas. It supports areas in math and science for iReady programming, updating our materials and online resources in physics, AP Physics, AP Calculus BC, Algebra 2. Still in the area of math, it enhances our teacher contracted training services, our summer curriculum writing, and a continued diagnostic software in the area of math. It also supports a bilingual program at Bedwell, so that would be teacher training, that would be teacher salaries, that would be summer curriculum, that would also be a supportive ELA program, classroom libraries, and Spanish screening exams as well. In the area of English and language arts, we have money budgeted for summer curriculum writing, curriculum development, teacher training, and contracted services. The Visual and Performing Arts has a restructured art program at the high school that streamlines our current photography and offerings and introduces digital arts as another pathway to getting into our AP art programming as well. Social Studies and World Languages has AP course offerings in macroeconomics, microeconomics, AP psychology, Spanish 5, and we have new texts for 2 existing AP courses that reflect recent College Board course changes, and we also have the introduction of advanced placement human geography for students at the high school as well. We're looking at additional AP textbooks and psychology textbooks, curriculum writing in the area of math and language arts. Just as a point of a reminder, the Department of Education is working in concert with the State Board of Education, who have codified new learning standards for language arts and math. So we're budgeting for those courses to be, for their curriculum to meet the standards set forth by the State Board. We have money allocated to, in the area of Bedwell-related arts, that's linked to our strategic plan as well. Continuing in curriculum, there's continued budgetary allocations for iReady. We are also doing as much in our bilingual programming training as well, so we're ready to go there. Ultimately, we have prepared a curriculum budget that meets and exceeds what my expectations would be for us to meet the state standards in math and language arts, particularly because those areas have been revised recently, as well as continuing to enhance our special education, bilingual, and advanced programming departments as well. Student services, we have a budget here, and as you can see, budget total is $7,877,473. It's a modest increase of $182,000. We have professional development in the area of curriculum for our language and learning disabilities program. We have money allocated for translation services. We have money allocated for Care Solace. And for those that are not aware, Care Solace is a service that the district funds in order for families of children that attend our schools. It allocates services for children who attend our schools. It allocates services for staff members who work in our schools and staff members' families to secure mental health supports when needed. It is something that is important to me to be able to provide that to the district, and that's spoken for in the budget. We have software that's in our budget that focuses on IEP software and 504 software. We also have testing kits for the child study team as well. We have related services that's budgeted for our behaviorist, assistive technology, one-to-one nursing, medical evaluations, neurological evaluations, and psychiatric evaluations. We have money allocated to execute our random drug testing policy work, our bilingual evaluations, and home instruction as well. In the area of personnel and program advancements, the spending plan does include an additional teaching position at Bedwell for a special education program. It's a language and learning disabilities program at Bedwell. It's new. That will fund 1 teacher and 2 paraprofessionals for the room. We will also have a bilingual program for our K-1 learners there, an academic support math teacher there that's full-time. An additional section in kindergarten is in the budget. From an extracurricular perspective, we have wrestling coaching stipends in the budget at the middle school, and we have a coaching stipend for high school girls volleyball, and we have 4 permanent substitutes allocated for the high school. A special law enforcement officer contract with Bernardsville Police Department that ensures that there is uniformity across the district, so each school will be supported by a special law enforcement officer. We have a webmaster, a central registrar, 2 additional bus drivers, 2 additional transportation aides, and the retitle of a supervisor position is all spoken for in the budget as well. In the area of facilities and operations, we're going to be boosting our cell booster, I should say enhancing our cell booster over at Bedwell. That area of Seney Drive has pretty spotty reception, and we feel it's important to be able to enhance that. The high school, we've budgeted for a track replacement, we've budgeted for lower field enhancements, and we've also budgeted for enhanced PAC lighting upgrades, all of which will be supported through capital reserve. So this budget was able to deliver on particular priorities, which we set out to do from the beginning. We wanted to be able to ensure class sizes for our kindergarten or youngest learners. We wanted to be able to add additional support mechanisms academically in the area of math at Bedwell. This budget has that. We wanted to support our multilingual learners, and there's a new bilingual program at Bedwell. We wanted to be able to create and deliver a new self-contained program at Bedwell, curriculum and professional development, school security, and transportation. So in transportation, we expect to be able to deliver and transport an additional 120 students that are housed within our hazardous routes in Bernardsville to school. So we've been able to do that inside of this budget. We have 4 district goals. Those district goals are spoken to as well inside of this budget. I'm going to speak a little bit about the Taxpayer Guide to Educational Spending. That's a way to, it's a metric that the Department of Fiscal puts out through the DOE that allows you to take a look at where your budget lies in comparison to similar districts to you. What the state does is they group districts with other school districts that are of similar size to yours. So we are grouped in a K-12 group that has between 0 and 1,800 students. So that is our peer group, and almost every county in the state is represented. There are 19 out of 21 counties that are represented inside of our group. So it's not just a regional comparison; it's a comparable it's a comparison all across the state for districts of similar size. So there are ratings that get developed, and I'm going to give you kind of the high level here. They develop our ratings from our user-friendly budgets. The data that I'm going to present is past data, but it gives you a frame of reference as to where you are budgetarily. As an example, there are 51 school districts that are in our peer group, and a rating of, in this case, as an example, a rating of 31 in a peer group of 51 means that 20 school districts spend more than you, and 30 school districts spend less in a particular area that gets reported. So our budgeted cost per pupil, we have a rating of 43 out of 51. That means that 42 spend less and 8 spend more. You see how that works? Okay. Our total classroom costs, we have a rating of 41 and 51. Our classroom salary and benefits, a rating of 41. Classroom supplies and textbooks, we have a rating of 38. Classroom purchase services, we have a rating of 18. Total support services, we have a rating of 40. Our salary and benefits for support services, we have a rating of 41. Our total administration, we have a rating of 30. Our legal services, we have a rating of 22. Our administration salary and benefits, we have a rating of 41. Total operations and maintenance, we have a rating of 39. Operations and maintenance salary and benefits, we have a rating of 43. Extracurricular costs, 44. Our teacher to student ratio and their salaries, we have a rating of 33. Our educational support professionals, that ratio to students and their salary is 33, and the administration to student ratio and salary is a rating of 23. When looking at our state revenue resources, we have a rating of 5 of 51. Our tax revenue resources is a rating of 35. Our federal revenue sources is a rating of 3. Our tuition revenue sources is a rating of 35. Our fund balance resources are a rating of 51. So the story there is that state revenue sources are low. We don't receive very much state aid in comparison to your overall budget. Federal revenue is very low as well. That's why those are so low. A few years ago when this data was from, we were in the middle of COVID. The Department of Education allowed you to carry a certain amount of fund balance over into your budget, and we did use 4% of fund balance, which happened to be the highest at the time of our peer group. Student to teacher ratio, we're 31 of 51. Student to support staff ratio, we're 18 of 51. Student to administration ratio, we are 22 of 51, and our classification rate is 35 of 51. It's classification of students with disabilities. So the implications here, taking away from the taxpayer guide for educational spending, is there's a high reliance on property taxes due to low allocations from state and federal sources. There's an above average, above cohort average and pupil support costs. So those are classroom costs, salaries, benefits, textbooks, professional services. There's lower administrative costs and legal costs with the group. The cohort average, we're in the cohort average for operational costs and maintenance costs, and we're at the cohort average of student to teacher and educational support ratio, and we have a low student to administration ratio. We have a few slides here, including some pie charts, because it is a budget presentation from Ms. DeMarco.
Thank you, Dr. B. With your approval of the tentative budget at our last meeting on March 13, subsequently it was prepared and submitted through the DOE budget software on or before the 20th of March, which was my deadline. Following this, the Somerset County Business Administrator and the Superintendent reviewed our budget, resulting in a few recommendations. These adjustments were incorporated, leading to the final approval in early April by the county, which allowed us and enabled us to advertise the user-friendly budget in both the Bernardsville News and the Courier News last week in preparation for our budget hearing today. Highlights of the changes that were made from last meeting, from our presentation, pertain to our utilization of the bank cap fund. Oops. Did you do that, or did I do that? Oh, you did that. I'm not ready for the pie chart. Again, the highlights of changes that were made pertains to, one, our utilization of the bank cap fund. Initially, we had projected using $174,209 of bank cap. However, due to a projected health care cost increase in our current budget, the district generated sufficient health care adjustment, which is allowed by the state to be applied to the 24-25 budget. This is good news in that we still have 2 additional years to use the bank cap funds, providing increased flexibility for future budget planning. And the budget resolution, the last paragraph reflects that we'll be using the health care adjustment as opposed to the bank cap that was in our March resolution. As Dr. Brochel explained, under the facilities and operations, the suggestion was made to exclude the custodial equipment from the capital reserve project. As a result, the adjusted capital withdrawal amount stands at $1,720,600. Additionally, the final adjustment that was made to our budget was the special revenue fund. It was recommended to include student activities, scholarships, and other local fund into this category, which historically were not reported under Fund 20, which resulted in an increase amount of $941,865, which is reflected in our chart. So with these 3 adjustments, the overall revenue shows a modest increase of 0.1% compared to the previous year. Now for the pie chart. The changes were very minor, so which did not affect the pie chart, and as Dr. Brochel mentioned, that we are heavily based on our local taxes, which is the 76% of our total revenue. And tuition is 11%, and that is mostly from our Bedminster for the high school. State aid is 5%. Capital reserve is 4%, and fund balance remains at 3%, and all other is 1%. Similar to the revenues, the total expenses also reflect a minor uptick, the same uptick since we need a balanced budget of 0.1% from the previous year. And same as the revenue side, the expenditure pie chart also remains the same, with salaries and benefits being the biggest piece of the pie. And the special ed is 8%, transportation is 4%, and all other is 12%. So in summary, the total tax impact remains the same. We are doing a 2% tax levy with a combination of 2.5 in general funds and with a decrease of debt service, and with the increase of the 2.5 is the healthcare adjustment that we're using, so we're doing a 2% tax levy with the 5%, and if you add that with the decrease in the debt service fund, which is our bonds, you get a total tax levy to the public for 2%. And that sums up the total overview of the numbers.
So the board will have you'll conduct a public hearing later tonight in the agenda regarding the budget. And my report has been lengthy tonight. We continue to work on the feasibility studies for Olcott Field. We are currently surveying the community, and there's a survey out on our website. That will close on April 30th. We've been surveying, or the survey will be open for approximately 1 month. We're also working on finalizing our communication plan, which we'll present to the board as well to implement. And I would ask and remind all folks that they can follow our website for news and different happenings that are taking place in the district on our website under district news. And that concludes my report, Ms. Frenda.
Before we close this portion, I just want to hand it over to Mr. Grandpre for some retiree recognitions.
Whereas Deborah Thorpe has been employed from January 1996 through June 2024 as a confidential secretary business office, and whereas she exemplifies expertise, commitment, and professionalism in her duties, and now therefore be it resolved that the Somerset Hills School District and Board of Education recognize Deborah Thorpe's retirement effective July 2024 and extend her congratulations and best wishes for a happy, healthy, and enjoyable retirement. Also, whereas Stephen Sands has been employed from September 1998 through June 2024 as a music teacher, and whereas he exemplified expertise, commitment, and professionalism in his duties, and now therefore be it resolved that the Somerset Hills School District and Board of Education recognize Stephen Sands' retirement effective July 2024 and extend him congratulations and best wishes for a happy, healthy, and enjoyable retirement.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Burchell, for a report that was chock full of information, amazing celebrations. I wouldn't be adverse to starting every board meeting with student performances and just amazing recognitions of things that are going on in the district. And we are going to move into our first public comments for actionable agenda items. We very much welcome input from the public. Public comments are welcome at this time on any actionable agenda item. Towards the end of the meeting, there is a second public forum on any topic. Please state your name and address. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. At 3 minutes, you will be interrupted and asked to pause to allow any other members of the public who would like to speak an opportunity to do so. An individual may return to the podium to complete their statement after everyone else has been heard and had an opportunity to speak for a total of 2 times at the podium. Please understand that our public forums are not structured as question and answer sessions, but are offered as opportunities to share your thoughts with the board. In instances where the board feels there is a misunderstanding or inaccuracy, the board president or superintendent may address the comment. In accordance with the New Jersey State statute, the board will not discuss matters regarding specific personnel. Public comments will be limited to 30 minutes in this session. A reminder for all parties in attendance to remain respectful and that there should be no interaction between the speaker and the audience. No members of the audience should interfere with or interrupt a speaker's comments. Thank you in advance for your input, and Mr. Marco sets her timer, so just please be mindful of that for where you are in the 3-minute cycle. Is there anyone that would like to make a comment on actionable agenda items? Okay, then can I get a motion to close public comments? Mr. Grandpré, Ms. Santoro? Thank you very much. We will then move into the approval of the minutes. I will need a motion to approve the minutes for public input and action and executive meeting minutes for March 13th and our special meeting for the budget retreat on March 9th. Can I get a motion? Ms. Wright, and a second. Ms. Cooper, any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mrs. D. Grandpré?
Yes.
Ms. Gills?
Yes.
Mr. Joyce?
Abstain.
Ms. Nathans?
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
Mrs. Rye?
Yes.
And Mrs. Frenda?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Before we move into the report, the committee report for finance, we are now going to open the public hearing regarding the 24-25 budget. I am going to need a motion to open the public hearing. Ms. Santoro, and a second. Mr. Grandpré, thank you very much. And the discussion will start off with the board. If anybody at the board table has any questions regarding the changes made to the budget or the budget as it was presented this evening. Yes, Ms. Wright.
I'd just like to say, it's really good that we had the budget retreat and afterwards that we looked at some things, especially in providing math help at the elementary level. And I appreciate the flexibility of both the Finance Committee and the people that put that budget together to add to things that sort of came in after. And I think that's especially that math help at the elementary school is a very good addition to our budget. Thank you.
Is there anybody else? No? Okay, then at this time, I would like to open it to the public. If any members of the public have any questions or comments on the budget, the 24-25 budget, now would be the time. You can take the podium, but it is only on matters relating to the budget at this time. No? Okay. Then I am going to need a motion to close the budget hearing. Ms. Rye, and a second. Ms. Cooper? Okay. And then we can go right into Mr. Baker. We're gonna combine two reports this evening for finance and F&O. Okay, thank you.
Yes, I'm going to give the report of the Finance Committee and the F&O Committee back to back because a lot of the items we discussed in each committee cross over what we're going to vote on. It would be unfair to talk about something and vote not in the committee. So I will do that. This is the first time we've ever done this before, but we'll give it a try. The Finance Committee met on April 10th for about 45 minutes. We had 5 members in attendance, along with Dr. Broschel and Mrs. DeMarco. We talked about 4 items. We talked about the budget update. I'm not going to go through what we just presented, but we talked a lot about the budget update, why the county made us change a few items, which were very insignificant. But I think the bank cap is probably the biggest item. Not using that this year, but saving it for the coming year, and using the health care waiver was big. We also talked about, in both committees, about the bid opening for the track. We got 2 bids for the track. One was just over $1 million, one was just under $1 million. So we're going to be voting tonight on F&O number 3 to accept the bid for the lower bidder, which comes in under budget, that what we budgeted for, so we're saving $159,000 we can use someplace else, which is fantastic. We also talked about in both committees that we were successful in acquiring 3 used school buses from the county. These are buses the county no longer needs. They put them up for auction. We got 2 24-passenger buses. One was a 2016 bus, one was a 2020, and we got 1 54-passenger bus, which is 2009, which may seem old, but the county not the county, the state changed the rule from 10 years lifespan of a bus to 20 years. So we still have about 5 or 6 more years on that bus, and it's got a great engine in it, and we're going to use that in a lot of our routes. The total cost for these 3 buses was $126,519, which will be paid for by the money we've saved in transportation this past year, because we're doing all the busings ourselves. We got new software. We got a great group of drivers, and we saved money and very little complaints from parents. It's been a great transportation year. So I commend our transportation department on that. We talked about in both committees, at Bedwell, we have 6 classrooms in the lower level that the HVAC units, there's 2 of them have failed, and it's uneconomical to replace them, to repair them. So we're going to replace them, and there's an item on the agenda tonight, number 11, in finance, to pull $58,730 from maintenance reserve and place the order for these 2 HVAC systems, and hopefully we'll get them early summer and get it finished by the opening of school. So that's what we talked about in finance. In F&O, we talked about the same things, except we added in a section about the lower fields at the high school. Our architect and an engineer are giving us different information about what the true cost might be to make the make the fields better and solve all the drainage issues and the playability issues for the baseball and softball field. So we're going to get an engineering firm in to give us an actual budget number on that, and there's an item on the agenda for approving T&M for $13,000 to get that done. We're also going to spend $3,460 on getting the fields, well, we probably spent it already, getting the fields fixed for this current baseball season. Okay, we might be spending more as we go through the spring. Next item we talked about was shared services with the borough of Bernardsville, things like the tennis court and the fields at the polo grounds, and we have a lot of other things we share. There's not a lot of things in writing about who's responsible for each issue, whether it's repair, replace, general maintenance, who does what. So Dr. Broschel is going to work with the borough and go over all the shared services and try to come up with a written plan that codifies who does what. And I don't think that's going to take a while, but it might be a good year, right? I would think. So that's on his to-do list, and we'll be talking about that more in F&O as we go further on. We also talked about the need for doing some RFPs. We haven't done an RFP for our architect in a long time. We did our law firm recently, and we did our accounting firm a couple years ago. So we need to do it for our architect, and we're going to do it for the engineer because we feel that we need engineering services too. So tomorrow they will place an ad for RFPs for architect services and engineering services. And I think that's all we talked about. So I will turn it over back to Mrs. Frenda.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Baker. At this time, I would like to ask for a motion to move action items number 1 through 14 on the agenda.
I'll move.
Mr. Baker, and a second? Mrs. Santoro? Okay, and is there any discussion on the finance items? Just finance. Just finance, yes. Okay, all right, then roll call, please.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mrs. D. Grandpre?
Yes.
Ms. Gills?
Yes.
Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
Ms. Nathans?
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
Mrs. Rye?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
And Mrs. Frenda?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we are actually going to have a brief departure from our agenda, and we do have to go back into executive session briefly for the purposes of discussing HIB, which is an executive level matter, before we can go into moving the items for facilities and operations. So we indulge the public in a maximum of 30 minutes of executive session. So I would like to get a motion to go back into executive session. Okay, Mr. Baker, and a second from Ms. Nathans. Okay, thank you, everyone, and we will return as soon as possible. Okay, thank you, everyone. Where we left it was Mr. Baker had given the report for finance, which incorporated the facilities and operations report in it. So as we come back, I am going to ask for a motion to approve action items number 1 through 3 on the agenda. Ms. Rye, and a second. Mr. Baker, thank you. And discussion on items 1 through 3.
I have a question. It's not necessarily on numbers 1 through 3, but it's an F&O related. So a few months ago, we discussed the possibility, just the conceptual possibility of revisiting the start time to accommodate, the Bedminster to Far Hills and PPAC Gladstone students in the high school. And I was wondering, and I think there was some discussion of investigating, evaluating student interest in that and parent-family interest. Has any progress been made on that? Not at this time. Okay. Dan, any thoughts on when that you might start that process? Okay, thank you.
Is there anybody else? Nope. Okay, then Mr. Marco, roll call, please.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mrs. D. Grandpre? Yep. Okay, Ms. Gills?
Yes.
Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
Ms. Nathans?
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
Mrs. Rye?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
And Mrs. Frenda?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I need to request a motion for number 4, action item number 4 on the agenda. Can I have someone make a motion, please?
Need a motion to affirm number 4.
Okay, and can I get a second? Ms. Rye? Okay, and roll call, please. Oh, wait, discussion. Is there any discussion? No? Okay. Oh,
Comment on this. we have a few of these on the agenda. It was the first time in this appeal process for myself, I think a number of the board members, just being that they are related to HIVs. I think, and again, I know HIV standards come down from the state. Perhaps as a district, we can do sort of an educational forum for parents and families to, I don't know, I keep bringing up the example of when we went to school, we knew what a detention was, right? We knew what the outcome was. Related to these and unrelated to these, I personally have gotten a lot of feedback. I don't think parents and families know what an HIV means. If it sticks with a student throughout their high school career, collegiate application process, et cetera. So perhaps that's an opportunity for us as a district to educate families, parents, et cetera, just as we go into these.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. de Grandpré? Ms. Skills?
I'm sorry, I'm just a bit confused.
The motion is to affirm the decision of the superintendent. So if you want to affirm his decision, you say yes. And if you don't, if you want to, yes, yeah. Yes, number 4.
We're on number 4.
We're on number 4, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
Mrs. Rye?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
And Mrs. Frenda?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. We are going to go through the same process for number 5. I'm going to need a motion for number 5 on the agenda. Ms.
I'll make a
Cooper.
motion to affirm number 5.
Okay, thank you, and I need a second. Ms. Rye? And is there any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Ms. Gills?
No.
Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
Mrs. Rye?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
And Mrs. Frenda?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. And finally, I am going to request a motion for number 6 on the agenda. Ms. Rye?
I make a motion to affirm number 6.
Okay, and I need a second. Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion?
Yes, quickly. In the same process I spoke about earlier, putting families and parents first in terms of the process and how we proceed with these. Something tells me with the growing number of HIVs and the lack of education that I mentioned, we're probably going to see more appeal processes. So the quicker we can educate and also just make it a seamless process for the families. That's my encouragement to the board.
Okay, is there anybody else? Ms. Rye?
I'm going to piggyback a little bit on Mr. Joyce's recommendation, but with the caveat that some of this comes down from the state, and this is something that needs to be argued, with the state legislature. And I know that they had in the fall, am I correct on that one? This is Dr. They had a compact in the fall, which they invited parents and educators, and it's been part of the agenda. Very often, it's hard to take that day off and go down to Trenton, but if you.
You can write letters. You can write letters too. You don't have to be in person. Okay. Is there anybody else? No? Okay, then roll call, please.
Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
Mrs. Rye?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mrs. De Grandpré? Ms. Gills? Motion carried. And Mrs. Frenda, sorry.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Ms. Cooper, curriculum.
The curriculum committee met Thursday, April 11th for 2 hours. All committee members attended, and we were joined by Dr. Brochel and Dr. Butler. We began the meeting with an update on the math curriculum with a focus on grades 5 through 10. Dr. Butler presented data on student achievement and curricular needs in math at the middle school and the high school as a continuation of our discussion from last month. We discussed 3 main topics: the transition from honors math in the middle school to honors math in the high school, the double accelerated math pathway, and instructional time in the middle school. As we noted last month, students in honors geometry in 9th grade who successfully completed honors algebra in 8th grade have historically struggled. Data presented by Dr. Butler confirmed this, indicating a drop in achievement between grade 8 algebra and grade 9 honors geometry, with 5 to 10 students dropping honors geometry every year. Internal data and NJSLA data presented by Dr. Butler suggest that Algebra 1 curriculum at the middle school may require some adjustment to ensure alignment with the high school curriculum and to adequately prepare students for honors geometry. We also may be accelerating too many students in the middle school. In the middle school, approximately half of grade 8 students take Algebra 1, and by contrast, in Bedminster, only 10% of grade 8 students take Algebra 1. Dr. Butler made several recommendations to help narrow these gaps. She emphasized the need for teachers to provide accurate, conservative recommendations for placement, and in addition to teachers' recommendations, she recommended that the district use a matrix based on common unit assessments, end-of-course assessments, and I-ready scores for placement recommendations. She also recommended that the district reevaluate and adjust course-level recommendations after marking period 3 and marking period 4. Preliminary NJSLA's A scores generally become available at the end of June. Other recommendations included renaming honors math courses at the middle school to Algebra 1 and Geometry, ensuring that teachers in Algebra 1 and Geometry in the middle school and the high school are able to meet and observe each other, using common final assessments for the middle school and the high school math courses, and calibrating with Bedminster and the middle school about what is needed to assist the transition between middle and high school math. Next, we discussed the impact and identification of students in the double accelerated pathway. Students in this pathway are typically identified in grade 5 and are given the opportunity to self-study in the summer and test into the Math 7 honors course. Students later transition into algebra in the 7th grade and geometry in the 8th. The committee agreed that there are equity concerns with this approach due to the need for summer study. Many parents pay for private classes or tutors, and significant time, money, and parental support may be required. Some students also may face concerns related to peer pressure. And moreover, once a student is on an accelerated or double accelerated path, it's difficult to decelerate. Dr. Butler offered several recommendations to enhance outcomes in the double accelerated pathway. First, she recommended reevaluating double acceleration protocols every year using multiple data points and delaying double acceleration until the high school with a few exceptions. The decision to double accelerate students before 9th grade should be based on solid evidence of exceptional student achievement. She also recommended using stricter guidelines for identifying candidates in June for double acceleration starting in 2025. Potential guidelines included a grade of 98% or higher in grade 5 or 6 math, upper level 5 scores on the NJSLA test, above grade scores on I-ready math assessments in all domains, and teacher and parent recommendations. This summer, or the summer of 2024, will be the last summer for grade 5 math self-study for double acceleration. These recommendations will be presented at a parents' meeting during the principal's coffee hour and in letters to parents. Dr. Butler also recommended updating the high school criteria and procedures for student acceleration through summer study, running a local geometry class taught by a high school teacher during the summer, and providing additional support for doubling up in math in the high school. The final topic we discussed regarding math, which we also mentioned last month, was the concern that math instructional time in the middle school appears to be insufficient. related compared to other districts. Middle school students receive less instructional time compared to neighboring districts. For example, Bedminster students receive 80 minutes of instruction in grade 5 and 6 and 60 minutes in grade 7 and 8 in math. And in contrast, middle school students receive 43 minutes of continuous math instruction regardless of grade. Given this disparity, Dr. Butler recommended that the district adjust the middle school master schedule to allow 60 minutes of continuous instructional time in math in grades 5 through 8 with the same teacher. Increasing math time in the middle school is an important priority for the committee. Next, we discussed the use of the COGATS Naglieri General Ability Test in Bedwell. Historically, Bedwell has used COGATS as a tool to identify students for participating in its Opt3 Gifted and Talented program. However, this tool has shown some bias favoring English-speaking students. In response, the administration has been investigating nonverbal assessments that use minimal language and written directions that do not rely on a child's reading, writing, or language skills. The Naglieri Nonverbal Ability Test was recommended by Bedwell's Gifted and Talented teacher. It is the gold standard assessment for unbiased scoring and provides a more equitable method of assessing diverse populations for gifted programs. Last month, Ms. Garofalo attended our curriculum committee to describe the Capturing Kids' Hearts program. This month, Dr. Butler reviewed the specifics of the program and a proposal for its use at the middle school. This summer, 50 staff members at the middle school will attend 2 consecutive days of training and have access to the course training manual. In the fall, staff from Capturing Kids' Hearts will conduct a 2-day implementation visit, which will be customized to meet our needs, but will include a 1-day instructional session for up to 30 participants. Capturing Kids' Hearts staff will also visit in the spring of 2025 for another campus traction visit involving group and one-on-one sessions. The middle school will also have access to campus-specific subscriptions for comprehensive ongoing support in the 24-25 school year. And together, the cost of training and our participation in this program is approximately $49,000. Dr. Brochel then reviewed the Qualtrics program with the committee. Qualtrics is a software program that allows schools to collect student, faculty, and staff feedback and community feedback as well through surveys, online reviews, and social media. It can also be used to help schools measure satisfaction levels and identify areas of concern with the goal of enhancing the educational experience and tailoring educational offerings to meet the needs of students. This district will be using this web-based software moving forward. We then discussed field trips and professional development and school business requests. The committee had several questions regarding PD related to Qualtrics. 3 administrators, including the superintendent, BA, and director of student services, have requested to attend the 3-day Qualtrics conference. The district will be covering travel-related expenses, but the cost of conference admission is free to the district. We will vote on these PD requests tonight. Next, we discussed the feasibility of instruction in American Sign Language, or ASL, at the high school in response to interest expressed by board members and students. According to Mr. Catelli and Dr. Butler, there has not been enough student interest to fill a complete program. Currently, students who have studied ASL have not stayed with the program as long as they intended because of the difficulty of learning ASL virtually. The reality is that finding certified and appropriate world language teachers is difficult, and when starting a new language that may not run full-time, finding a part-time ASL teacher will be nearly impossible. According to Dr. Butler, other districts that have tried to launch ASL programs have not been able to staff them. Unfortunately, according to the administration, the only way to fill an ASL position is to have a virtual teacher, and that may not be as effective or feasible in the context of state requirements. Finally, Dr. Butler mentioned a field trip involving a visit to brick schools to see the culmination of a multi-year effort to rewrite the 5th grade curriculum to focus on local history and civic engagement in collaboration with local organizations. Hopefully, the administration will share an update on this trip in the future. And that concludes my report.
Hey. Thank you, Ms. Cooper. Can I get a motion to approve action items number 1 through 10 on the agenda? Ms. Nathans, in a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Ms. Cooper, and discussion.
I just wanted to say thank you for your work, especially in the math section. Bedminster is very anxious to work with everybody. We have a very large parent group who is very concerned that we're not adequately preparing our children. And we want to make sure that we are doing all that we can. So Dr. Butler knows all this, so this is very welcome. I'll be very happy to share some of this information at our Bedminster board meeting tomorrow night, because it's been a very, very big concern, especially for kids who double up on math. I've had 2 that have to do that, and it's pretty miserable. So having additional math support is all really wonderful news, so thank you very much for your hard work.
Committed to working through this with Bedminster.
Yeah,
So
no, I know.
They're all the same kids.
I
so
agree.
we're together.
Absolutely all the same kids, so thank you.
Anybody else?
I want to touch on American Sign Language for a moment and kind of the discussion that led to with regards to world languages. You know, I think it was a good and robust conversation.
Sorry. Yeah, Mr. Baker.
I have a question about the gifted and talented. It's more informational, like what age group are we giving these tests to? I'm trying to imagine what a nonverbal testing is with no writing.
Third grade, early in third grade. We may.
In third grade.
We may shift it to late second grade, but generally it's
There.
early third grade.
So are they doing it like on a screen, or do they give or do they have a book they look at, or they have paper, right? So they look at the paper and they have to solve a problem? Okay. But there's no English on it?
There's very little
Okay, it's
language.
all pictures and symbols. Okay, just want to know, because I never.
I think you would do very well.
I know. I hope I would. But no, it's just that, I've never really thought about it. It's like when I read that, it's like, oh, boy, that's pretty cool.
It's something we've been concerned about for a while, and we've been doing some research, and the program that we're moving toward is really, as Nicole said, gold standard for just eliminating bias in it.
So how many students that normally qualify for gifted and talented?
Check that.
Is it a small number, like 5 or oh, it's more than that? Okay, thank you.
In the springtime, generally too, they'll present their work.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you the next date for that, because it's fascinating.
Okay.
It's fun.
I just want to ask, over here in Siberia, you could talk a little louder.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right. I heard it all, pretty much.
Okay.
I just wanted to reiterate something that Ms. Santoro said and expand upon it a little bit regarding her comments on ASL and specifically regarding children with language processing issues. I just would like to even, take that specific issue and just do a little investigating to make sure and to see how we're supporting our kids who, being that world language is all language-based, just what type of supports we have in place for kids that struggle in these areas. And I imagine those things are multiplied for students in the world language realm. So I thought that kind of illuminated an important point. And additionally, also, I think world language, I know that it's one of the areas that since the pandemic is a huge struggle in staffing, not just ASL, just across the board. I think that we are phenomenally lucky that apparently we had 2 amazing candidates, I believe. We were very lucky for the bilingual program, and we really, that will come up in personnel. But it is a challenge, and so I do think that, at this time, given that that is a challenge that is likely going to, we're going to see for at least a bit of time, looking at our world language programs as it exists and what tweaks we can make just to make the program as successful as possible within potential limitations that, we're challenged with. So I just wanted to reiterate that. Is there anybody else?
I have a few questions. For topic 2, so we're eliminating the double accelerated. Yes. Okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood that. I had another question. So wait, because then it says here, delay double acceleration until high school. So with the few exceptions are those children who meet the new criteria. But won't they face the same problem for those children? I know it won't be a summer self-study, but won't those children still be facing the same issues, those who can have tutors with those who cannot afford tutors?
The students that utilize that 5 double acceleration will only be identified when we feel that they are really appropriate for them. So they won't be studying for the summer with a tutor to be able to pass a test to get through it. It'll really be a more holistic look at their mathematical abilities.
But more likely than not, they're getting tutoring during the school year to help them. I mean, that's not a shocker.
There's several data points. It's not, we won't be looking at just one test, how they're performing in the classroom, what their teachers are looking at them, how they're doing on all of their I-ready assessments, how they're doing on the NJSLA. So again, lots of data points.
I think the concern that we were talking about from a tutoring perspective is for, at this time, to qualify into that double accelerated program, the process requires students to study over the summer, and oftentimes those parents are utilizing a tutor, and that is not an equitable opportunity for everyone.
But even throughout the whole school year, my kids have to be tutored. It's not fair for other kids who don't have that. I didn't have that opportunity growing up. So I'm just confused about how do you make it equitable without eliminating things or lowering standards?
One of the things that we try to do to make this more equitable is we're providing.
Can you hear?
We provide math labs so that students can work with teachers so that they don't have to go to tutoring after school or pay for it. I mean, there's things like that available as well.
Okay, thank you. I think that was it. All right, thank you.
Is there anybody else? Okay, then roll call, please.
Ms. Nathans?
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
Mrs. Rye?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mrs. D. Grandpré?
Yes.
Ms. Gills?
Yes.
Mr. Joyce? And Mrs. Frenda?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Grandpré, personnel, please.
So the Policy and Personnel Committee met on April 8th for just over 2 hours. All members were in attendance. In regards to personnel, we reviewed the job description for the registrar, which was discussed in the budget hearing this evening, and the title of which is also on the agenda for approval tonight, and we reviewed the pending agenda items in regards to personnel.
I would like to ask for a motion to approve action items number 1 through 18 on the agenda, please.
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Grandpré in a second, Ms. Rye, and discussion. Yeah.
I don't know if I missed it, Kristen, because I was reading something else. Did we mention policy 0164?
This is personnel.
Oh, duh. Okay, sorry.
Anyone else? No. Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
Mrs. Rye?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mrs. D. Grandpré?
Yes.
Ms. Gills?
Yes.
Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
Ms. Nathans?
Yes.
And Mrs. Frenda?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, Mr. Grandpré, policy, please.
Yes, so in regards to policy, we started the meeting off by discussing bylaw 0164, which was a topic of discussion in our last board meeting, where I had asked all board members to please provide feedback prior to our committee meeting. This then ensued a long discussion within committee. The drafted changes had been sent to the committee prior to the meeting for review, and subsequently have also been sent to the board with the track changes for everybody to review. They were drafted in the most restrictive process of the recommendations. There were concerns that were raised about the timing of the overall policy change. It's a policy that's been suspended for well over a year, and best practice advises that we do not leave it suspended for too long. There were also concerns raised about the recommendations to change the supplementary matters title to board announcements, and restricting where board members may be able to speak on certain topics. Board members have the opportunity for unlimited speech in each committee-based discussion, and the vast majority of all of our board business should fit into one board committee category. There were discussions on the time limit that was proposed for the board announcement section, which was 10 minutes with a motion to extend if possible. As we discussed in committee, this was the most restrictive part of the changes that we did make in terms of them being proposed. Not all who provided feedback had recommended a time limit. This is up for discussion with the full board, so please, I hope you've considered how you feel about this, and we'll have an active discussion about it this evening. Next steps for this policy or bylaw will be for us to discuss it here in public with the full board on the current changes that are proposed, and then for it to continue to be worked on in committee until we have a consensus on our changes. We will then ask for assurance that we are legally okay with the changes that we are looking to make before drafting it and placing it in first reading when appropriate. There's not a defined timeline for when we choose to get this to first reading, but we would like this policy to be clear and agreeable to the whole board. We also went on to have a discussion about the Booster Club policy. The Booster Club policy changes have continued to uncover various implementation challenges that are being addressed regarding conditioning and strengthening, positions of coaches, and other things that have been previously supported by booster clubs and not always board approved personnel-wise. The new leadership in the booster clubs are working with Dr. B to find a path forward that can be beneficial to all students and all sports. Additional discussions have occurred surrounding logo use and snap raise options with booster clubs versus student initiation for snap raise, and solutions continue to be worked on for all aspects of the booster club while adhering to our revised policies. We also discussed the policies that were previously in first reading and now are in second reading. They were all moved without any additional input from the board or the public at that time. And pending items for next month will be that we are going to be revisiting the substance abuse policy and beginning to work on those potential changes as well.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'd like to ask for a motion to move action item number 1 on the agenda.
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Grandpré, in a second? Ms. Nathans, thank you. Discussion.
Statements, a statement. First of all, thank you, because I know we're going to keep discussing this proposition to move back to where supplemental used to be back in January or February of '23. I, not surprisingly, opposed the proposal to dramatically revise the board's agenda by eliminating the supplemental section. Senior ranking board member Robert Baker recently acknowledged supplemental as an integral part of our meetings throughout his 17-year tenure, highlighting its importance to the board's operational framework. So what are the true intentions behind such a radical overhaul, and why now? I think I can answer both. I have been a member of the board's policy committee since I was first elected. The seed for this contentious proposal was planned in January or February of '23, shortly after Sam assumed the presidency for her first term. She proposed repositioning the supplemental segment of our agenda to follow public comments, framing it as an experiment to give board members the last word, so to speak, at meetings, and I do not mean that derogatorily. The intent behind this trial period, which was supposed to end again a year later, was to determine where to position supplemental within the agenda. Now it concludes with a proposition to scrap supplemental entirely in favor of an untested and unproven board announcements, a concept that is both nebulous and possibly constrained by severe time restrictions on board members' speech. Why? Where is the groundswell of demand in the district to hear less from its elected officials? In the last year plus of policy committee meetings, there has not been any further discussion on the timing of supplemental or whether to remove it. Given the board's poor record of meeting management this year, as we struggle to deal effectively with handling racial issues and ethical violations by one of our members, certain members of the policy committee, myself included, questioned the timing of this proposal. In January, because of a misguided suggestion by Attorney Weiss, my comments reporting serious and well-documented ethical violations against board leadership were wrongly confined to the time-limited public portion of the meeting, rather than the supplemental or the policy committee report. In February, I attempted to revisit my comments during supplemental, allowing for a more comprehensive presentation. Yet, my remarks were abruptly cut short by an improper motion to adjourn from Mr. Baker, sanctioned by President Frenda, while I was actively speaking, a direct and still unexplained violation of Robert's rules. Let's be clear. Robert's rules prohibits a member from from motioning to adjourn the meeting when a speaker has the floor. There is no exemption or exception to that rule, and none has been cited or offered to defend that illegal motion. What the public saw was a man going well beyond long-established procedural norms to cut off his Hispanic female colleague about to address our shared constituency about race. My perception as a minority is not for my colleagues to question, belittle, or challenge, and especially not chastise me. Sam compounded this oversight in March when she initiated a vote to decide whether I should even be allowed to complete my previously wronged interrupted remarks. Yet another procedural error. I have been told to stop playing the race card. And in reading about the meeting the following week, I saw for the first time that I, quote unquote, identify as Hispanic. Let me take apart both of those highly racially insensitive comments and explain how exceptionally harmful those comments are. The term playing the race card implies that individuals are using their racial identity as a tool for personal gain or advantage. The insinuation not only trivializes the experiences of racism and discrimination faced by marginalized groups, but also perpetuates harmful stereotypes that portray people of color as manipulative or deceitful. By suggesting that raising issues of race or ethnicity or transgenderism are ploys rather than legitimate concerns. This phrase dismisses the systemic inequalities and injustices that continue to oppress all minority communities. It invalidates the struggles and experiences of individuals who confront discrimination daily, perpetuating a culture of disbelief and dismissiveness. As the leaders entrusted with the well-being of our community, it is imperative that we reject such language and instead strive to acknowledge and address the systemic racism and inequalities that persist within our society. Moreover, imagine the chilling effect on students when they witness the board president dismiss racial complaints. And I'm sorry, not just you, others. This not only undermines the trust between the board and the community, but also discourages the students from speaking up about instances of racism or discrimination they face. When children fear that their concerns about racial injustice will be dismissed or minimized, it creates an environment where such issues are swept under the rug rather than addressed appropriately. Similarly, referring to someone as identifying, quote unquote, as Hispanic or any other ethnic identity is racially offensive because it reduces their complex identity to a mere label or category with language that implies that one's racial or ethnic background or gender is a matter of choice or preference rather than an intrinsic aspect of their true self. It disregards the historical and cultural significance of racial and ethnic identities, perpetuating the notion that they are interchangeable or superficial. What proof must I provide? My parents' immigration papers? How about my grandfather's prison record? Castro jailed him for years because he spoke out in the face of violent repression. Given this brief family history information I just shared should make it obvious I will not be silenced by these transparent attempts to limit speech because it upsets my colleagues. Sensitivities about racism in our district and our community, nor will I have my proud heritage publicly questioned by another once venerable local institution. We must reject language that diminishes or erases the significance of racial, gender, and ethnic identities and instead promote understanding, empathy, and respect for the diversity of our community. You are sorely mistaken if you believe what we say and do here has no effect within the schools. Once it was published that I, quote unquote, identify as Hispanic, one of my children was confronted by a classmate. Quote, "So I hear you're a fake Hispanic," end quote. Make no mistake, the intent of this motion is nothing more than to institutionalize the racially and ethnically insensitive behavior that has marked the meetings this year to silence voices of dissent, especially on race. I'm skeptical but hopeful that the committee will offer a more detailed rationale and justification for such significant alterations, reaffirming our dedication to transparency, adherence to procedural norms, and the high standard of governance our stakeholders rightfully expect. If they cannot do so, then they must justify why we are spending precious board time and resources to fix something that isn't broken and has worked well for decades. I appreciate again that my board colleagues will continue to discuss this topic and hopefully reach an agreement that does not work to stifle our right to speak and serves our meetings well. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that statement. First, I am just going to address a few things. I did not make any changes or suggest any changes to this policy back in January 2023. As the board president, I put forth a collective motion on behalf of this board who wanted to make that change. You keep singling me out in these situations. I was acting in my role as board president and putting forth a motion on behalf of the board.
Can I interject for 1 second?
don't understand the role of the board president, or you're doing it on purpose. That's first of all. But I'm going to continue my statement. You have now brought race and identity into play here. When I asserted being a minority as a Jewish female in this community, you responded by saying, I didn't know you consider yourself a minority. And if you consider yourself a minority, okay. Then someone actually got up at the podium and told me I wasn't a minority. So while you sit here admonishing the board for perceived persecution, overtly, you yourself addressed me as considering myself a minority. And I realize that clearly there are people in this community that don't agree with that, but 0.2% of the world population, 2.3% of the United States population, 6.6% of New Jersey population, and 1.5% of Bernardsville population unequivocally and numerically makes me a minority religiously. There is great debate over ethnic minority status as far as Jewish peoples are concerned. So I take tremendous umbrage with that assertion, given what transpired in the course of this last meeting. Again, that focus coming in this direction, especially given that context, is extraordinarily insulting. And I'm going to go so far as to say not just to me, but to the majority of this board. The insinuations that you're making about us and our perceptions about you, and the fact that we can't have simple disagreements on statements that you make. We are allowed to disagree with you, and it doesn't have to be based on anything other than the content of what you're saying. This is now multiple months of you asserting that we're disagreeing with you and responding to lengthy statements or assertions that you're making, and that we're doing it on the basis of ethnicity and race. Those are very, very lofty assertions to make. And there is nothing to substantiate them. You're making eyes? What has any member of this board done to infer that there is any type of racial or ethnic discrimination? I'm going to finish. But they're repeated assertions. But again, I just raised the context of how I was treated in asserting my minority status. So I kind of can't believe, and I'm more than happy to give you the history of my family and their fleeing of the Holocaust and what they faced here, if we want to start giving personal dialogues of our experiences and the way we've been marginalized. I'm sure everybody has seen the news. I'd be happy to give you my children's experiences here in this district over many years and the anti-Semitism that has been directed at them. So yeah, I take tremendous issue with that line of speaking. I will end it there to allow other people to weigh in. As you and I have already had an opportunity to speak, I don't know if at this time there is anybody else Mr. Baker.
I'm going to address one item, which you started your talk on. It's about saying that I said, and I did say, but you misinterpreted it, supplementary matters has always been used for board announcements. We're just changing the name of what it is. It is not for talking about non-board business if it doesn't affect the board, and that's why the word never became a problem until this last year, saying what goes in that topic. The entire board meeting is for board business. That's all I'm going to say.
So when I actually started on being the Bedminster representative, and you guys said supplementary matters, it was occasionally somebody would kind of use it for a speech. And I remember thinking, all right, this is kind of weird because it's not something we do at Bedminster. And I've sat on and participated in multiple nonprofit board of education, nonprofit board meetings. I've never seen anything as supplementary matters. Again, I kind of let it go. When the meeting started getting very odd this past year, I did talk to Gwen Thornton, and she said it's not a best practice to have it. People have it, and they've been moving away from it because it disrupts your meeting, and you're supposed to talk about the items that you need to talk about throughout the board, throughout the meeting, not at the end part. So that, for me, I'm in full favor of getting rid of it, relabeling it, because it doesn't make sense to me, and it never has. So that's all I wanted to say.
Is there anybody else?
just say, I had a short period of time, I guess well, actually probably was my first year in the old way, now we have the new way. Kristen, I appreciate you drafting this. I understand it's a work in progress, right? So this is an open discussion. We should definitely have more in the policy committee. I guess Bob, the optics weren't great, right? Call a spade, so I can understand why Sylvia might have that reaction, because the month after she was cut off very publicly, we're now changing policy on how the board is run. Obviously open to dialogue, and whatever we come up with as a board, we should all understand when we have unlimited time for the floor and for what, and yeah, I'll reserve the rest of my comments, but Kristen, thanks for putting your time onto this.
I just want to make a couple of comments on this. So one, I want to reiterate, when Bob moved to close the motion, and I said this last month, Sylvia had made a statement that she was going to reread what she had already stated in previous months. So I just want to, again, make sure that it is clear that you were never silenced. You stated you were going to reread. I'll move off of that because we already talked about, we dissected all of this last month. As far as the supplementary matters, nobody is looking to silence anybody. It was always meant to be a short blip. We attended the Unsung Heroes Award, and it was a wonderful event. Maybe next year everybody could join, that type of thing. Because board business, if we are doing our work as board members, should be discussed in committee dialogue. And it should be presented to chairs to be put on an agenda, at which point it will then become a committee discussion, at which point it will then be reported out in public, and you can say anything you want and take as much time as you need. Supplementary matters is not meant for us to have our opinions and to, if it's board related, you can find a way to discuss it at the board table in a committee discussion. So there's no intent to take the opportunity for board members to speak openly away. Supplementary matters, I remember my first year on the board. It was a June meeting, supplementary matters opened, and we had a board member drop something that was really not wonderful. It wasn't appropriate for the dialogue, and then we all went away for the summer with our staff and everybody hearing that. And so it's always been a problem. I bring that up because there's always been this kind of like, what is this for? And we never really understood it. So over the years, this is not the first time, and we have discussed, can we define it better? Do we need to change it? A lot of boards have future business as kind of their supplementary matters area. So I would just say, nobody's interested in silencing anybody here. That has never been the intent. We want to make sure we stay to board business, which is always what we want to do because that's how we focus on children. And we want to make sure that we are utilizing our board meeting for the appropriate purposes of discussing board business in the appropriate context of committee discussions, because we're a board of the committee. So I have no problem redefining it, putting a time limit, not putting a time limit. I am always happy, as I guess the second most senior person on the board now, if you have a topic you need to discuss, come to me. I'll help you figure out where it should go. I'll help you put it on an agenda. I'll help you introduce it during a committee discussion, whether I agree with it or not. It's okay. I'm more than willing to lend that hand to anybody that needs help to kind of say, this is really important to me. but it has to be board business, and I think that's where a lot of us have disagreed over the past couple months. But that's my, you know, I think that everybody has a right to say what they want, focus on the board, and we can find a way in appropriate committee discussions to do it. So I am still for redefining it and, you know, getting closure. And I want to reiterate, this was absolutely started under me as president, so.
Mr. Graham?
Yeah, just in all pun intended, just to supplement what Heather was saying, in terms of.
Sorry, just got it.
Yeah. In terms of us not silencing people, there is a place to talk about everything in a committee. And we just need to make sure that we're putting it into the right framework of the meeting. And I will just ask, because we are adjusting meetings a little bit in the coming month, our next policy and personnel meeting is, I believe, on Monday. So if anybody has any feedback in terms of changes to the policies or time limits or anything like that, please try and get that to me so that I can put it into any changes we will hopefully be discussing on Monday. As I said, we made it as restrictive as possible in terms of the feedback with putting time limits in and having all the different pieces to it and defining what is in each committee report and things like that. So if you have feedback, we'd certainly love to hear it.
Sam, when you told me that you're a minority, and then I said, you consider yourself a minority, you corrected me, and I corrected myself. You left that part out. So you can grimace, but I did, because I rewatched the meetings because I forget some of it. But I did correct myself after you clarified it. And I'm sorry if you were insulted that somebody else doesn't believe that you're a minority. I am sorry for that, because I know what it feels like to be labeled, in quotation, identifying as Hispanic. It's about as insulting a thing that can be written. I'm sorry that your kids have dealt with it, because my kids have dealt with it. And it's not fair. But I think the kids can learn, or are learning, from how we conduct ourselves and how we dismiss some things that are important to some and not to others. And I know what you're saying, that I was just going to reread my remarks, except I was going to reread them in one statement without interruption until the rules, Robert's Rules of Orders, were just thrown out the window, and I was interrupted. And I still have no answer, no clarity to that. Why? Why was that allowed? It's a matter of interpretation, is what I'm told. I've looked. It's just not allowed. Not during supplemental, not while somebody's in the middle of speaking. You don't make a motion to adjourn. It's disrespectful. The message that I was relaying wasn't being accepted. And to say that I can go to a committee and say, hey, this is going on. I went to you personally and Dr. Brochel, and we all agreed it was board business that day. That's why I remained under the impression that it was board business. And I'll share with you in supplemental, because you asked at the last meeting for the statute. It doesn't matter anyway, whether it's board business, private, or public. It's governed by a New Jersey statute.
Which one?
You want it now or in supplemental?
Well, what we're talking about here is policy, and we have policies that deal specifically.
Okay, then
with,
I'll save that for supplemental.
but I'm actually talking about policy right now. So when you say, where would you have addressed these things?
Yes, where?
We have policy 0142 which references our oath of ethics. We have policy 0145 that references resignation and removal, which is something that was raised. In addition to that, that could be an executive level conversation regarding ethics and legal advice to that end, if that is something that you have questions about. But those are things that certainly could have been discussed in committee in reference to those policies and how we govern ourselves. Furthermore, I'm going to say that I went back through every supplementary matter since January of 2023. And when we ask about where things fit and eliminating supplementary matters, no one is looking to eliminate supplementary matters. For as long as I've been on this board, it has been a point of confusion and misunderstanding as to what supplementary matters is. So it's taking that portion of the meeting and defining it as board announcements. You can then take literally everything that has been discussed in supplementary matters from January 2023 to date and put it in a committee discussion. January 2023, there were issues raised in supplementary matters regarding the health curriculum. That would have been a perfectly fine thing to address with the curriculum chair, to have the committee review it, and for the committee then to have it read out and a public discussion ensue. February 2023, there were budget questions and questions regarding how state aid is allocated and or denied. Those would have been wonderful questions to pose to the finance committee and have finance discuss, have a readout done, and have a full board conversation in public. AP African American Studies was raised in that same meeting. That would have been a wonderful thing to put forth to the
Wait,
curriculum
you're
meeting.
putting all of that stuff on me?
No, I'm just saying things that have been raised in supplementary matters, asking how do you know where to put it? I went through every single one, and every single one was F&O, Finance, Committee. And the point then being, if there isn't a place for it, then you need to question whether it's board business. And if it's not board business, maybe look at the policies and to see where it would enter into a policy discussion. But there was not one thing that I could find in supplementary matters that could not be raised via committee discussion or public discussion after being raised in committee. So as far as trying to silence, no, it's just moving it to the proper venue for discussion. That's all it is if you want to talk about ethics violations or policies related to ethics violations, take it to policy. If you want to get legal advice on a matter regarding ethics, bring it to executive session. There is a place for everything. No one is trying to restrict anything. It is just that supplementary matters is after the board business is done. We can't use that piece of our meeting as an ad hoc catch-all committee discussion. That is not what it was intended to be. That is not what it should be. We have committees for that. If a committee does not exist, if you're finding that there are issues that we need to address and things that are not being addressed through our current committee structure and that we need to add a new committee, that is what we're here for. Those are the things that we are supposed to be talking about to make sure.
Can I just finish, though? I want you to think, be me for a minute. I took it in-house first because I didn't want to bring it out publicly. I thought it was highly sensitive, highly inappropriate, and I didn't think it needed to be brought out. I brought it in-house, and it was shooed away. And how am I then supposed to bring it to a committee with any hope of it making it onto the agenda? Be honest. If you were me, and that's the experience you had,
Correct me if I'm wrong, we do have a supplementary matters coming up.
Yeah, but this is related to the policy discussion.
Can we be respectful
yeah,
to the?
he's right.
What?
Can we be respectful to the public? please?
Absolutely, yes,
Right.
absolutely. But I just want to clarify that there.
This is embarrassing. Can we please move on and go towards the public?
Excuse me, Mr. Joyce.
Yes.
There was a very lengthy speech given at the start of this
I know.
committee meeting.
We have to move on.
I understand, but when we're talking about restricting speech, and now,
We can pick it up in supplementary matters.
but it's not for supplementary matters, that's the point.
All right, finish the policy. Finish.
I'm, who's being, I understand that you're, but this is our business. This is a meeting of the board in the public, where the public has the opportunity to be heard. This is a board meeting.
Carry on, Sam.
So I would like to make it.
Sam, I think you were making a statement.
I think the point here has been proven that things are going very one way here. This is actually an appropriate time to be having this conversation, and now it's being said that we should move it to supplementary matters.
Listen, I just want to be respectful.
I understand, and we always want to be respectful, but this is,
Okay, I would like to make a comment. So Sylvia, I want to say this. As much as I feel a little silly admitting this, you could go watch other board meetings, which is very educational from the standpoint of learning how other boards operate, what committees they have, what type of, how they end their meetings. And everyone you watch will be different. So what I would recommend is if you feel that this is now too restrictive, go look at some. And I know we're all busy, but I've done it. And, when you're really curious about something, you can research it and make a recommendation that would put forth something in the middle for the policy conversation that then you guys can discuss and make a recommendation to the full board. But there are a lot of different ways to do this type of thing. Every board does it slightly differently. And I think that is probably, we have some ideas to work from, and then we can continue to have this conversation. But I do agree that, I appreciate the public coming. I know these are long meetings, but these are the dialogues that we have to have. These are the dialogues that, bring all the different opinions to the table, and sometimes they take longer than others, so.
Heather, I appreciate instead of you just saying, no, you're wrong, your perception's wrong, whatever else has been said, I appreciate you saying, come to me if you have a question, and I can help you with it.
And I hope that's the feeling that you've gotten from all of us.
I'm sorry, I've been skittish since December 12th. I have been skittish since that date. I felt like if it wasn't happening at that point, and again, the circles were the wagons were circled, sorry. Why would I bring it to a committee to be shot down there? That's my feeling. But I agree with Ian, we should move on because these folks have been sitting here for hours.
Okay. Can I get roll call, please?
Mrs. Rye?
Yes.
Mr. Baker? Ms. Cooper? Mrs. DeGrandpre?
Yes.
Ms. Gills?
Yes.
Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
Ms. Nathans?
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
And Mrs. Frenda?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Public comments. Public comments are welcome at this time on any topic. Please state your name and address. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. At 3 minutes, you will be interrupted and asked to pause to allow any other members of the public who would like to speak an opportunity to do so. An individual may return to the podium to complete their statement after everyone else has had an opportunity to speak for a total of 2 times at the podium. Please understand that our public forums are not structured as question and answer sessions, but are offered as opportunities to share your thoughts with the board. In instances where the board feels there is a misunderstanding or inaccuracy, the board president or superintendent may address the comment. In accordance with New Jersey statute, the board will not discuss matters regarding specific personnel. A reminder for all parties in attendance to remain respectful and that there should be no interaction between the speaker and the audience. No members of the audience should interfere with or interrupt the speaker's comment. Thank you in advance for your input. And again, please reference Mr. Marco's timer to see how much time you have left on your 3 minutes. Thank you. Would anyone like to take the podium?
Came in here with Fraser Technology Companies 5 months ago. We worked diligently with Jeremy Schwartz, the IT director of Somerset Hills School District. For the first 3 months, it went very well. We steered the school clear of a contract they were currently in We showed them how to get out of that contract. Furthermore, we also steered the school clear of all proprietary solutions where the board would be stuck with one company and not able to be, shop around. So Jeremy Schwartz told me and my colleague that we were the front runners in this copier printer technology deal. We were introduced to him via Mr. Mike Hoppy, the vice principal here, who we've known for quite a while. And the reason why I bring up my family here is because I didn't expect it to give me any preferential treatment, but I expected a fair and equal opportunity on this technology deal. We were told that we were in the lead, wasn't really talking to anybody else. Jeremy Schwartz actually said he would try to get a deal done by January of beginning of this year. So from October 23 up until March of 24, we worked with the school. So about 3 months into working with Jeremy Schwartz, he informed me that, not to worry, but that Miss Ginny DeMarco was talking to a friend at Atlantic Tomorrow, which is a competitor, but not to worry. And I said, well, I don't really care. This is a public school. It's supposed to be open, transparent. You got to do your due diligence. No problem. We asked Jeremy, though, would it make sense, since you're telling us that you and Ms. DeMarco are the two decision makers on this technology deal, and by the way, that the board would rubber stamp their decision, we asked to meet with Ms. DeMarco. We were told we were not allowed to meet with her, and if we went above his head, Ms. DeMarco would get angry. Now, is there
Mr.
anybody
Walsh?
else who wants to speak?
Yeah, if anyone else wants, you can come back, but if there's anyone
I'll
else that
step
wants
away.
to make a statement.
Because I need to get to the main part of it.
In January, over a weekend, my daughter...
Just please state your name.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Allison Labrera, 10 Stevens Street, Bernardsville. In January, over a weekend, my daughter was on a group text, and a student texted the group chat a video. In the video, the student has they had a special needs student acting out a sexual act in the locker room. The special needs student obviously had no idea that he wasn't in on the joke. My daughter responded immediately to the group text and responded, WTF. She then sent the email to the high school administration and went to see them first thing Monday morning. Later that week, she was told that the student served 1 day of in-school suspension, but was able to play in his game. She was outraged to hear that this wasn't taken seriously. So she went and spoke to the high school administration. At that time, she was told that it was being investigated. We were under the impression that an HIB was filed, as the word investigation was used. And we wanted to give it time, as we know that HIBs take about a month to complete. After a month, I followed back up with the administration. At that time, I was asked if I had filed an HIB. I responded, no, because I assumed with the information we gave you that you had to. At that point, I reached out to Dr. Broschel and spoke with him. I then received a phone call from the high school administration. The administrator that called me was incredibly aggressive, speaking over me, and was gaslighting me. He told me that an HIB wasn't filed because A, there was no victim, and B, no distinguishing characteristics. As I'm sure all of you know, that a child in a protected class is a distinguishing characteristic, and the law deems a victim as what any reasonable person would feel. The administrator was trying to dismiss me. The kicker in this whole situation, the only person that acted appropriately was the 17-year-old. And she will address how that affected her in a moment. After this conversation, I felt that the high school administration was hoping the situation and I would just go away, and realized I can't trust that they would do the right thing. So I did. I called the victim's mother, and my fears were confirmed. I had a very uncomfortable conversation with a woman I had never met. No one told her this happened 2 months after the incident. I then emailed Dr. Broschel and asked for a meeting with the high school administration so we could discuss the lack of understanding of the HIB procedures. Instead, I was offered a meeting with Dr. Broschel and Dr. Butler. Unfortunately, Dr. Broschel had an emergency, but I did meet with Dr. Butler, and we had a very good conversation, and she listened to all of my concerns. Since then, I have not heard from anyone, so I sent an email to Dr. Broschel yesterday to once again follow up, and have not yet to hear back, which is what brings me here tonight.
Thank you.
She is going to finish.
Yep. Thank you.
My concerns.
I'm
Jo-
Julia Binns. I live at the same house, 10 Stevens Street. My concerns are that everyone hopes I just go away and they can move on, but I will not let this go until I feel comfortable that this will never happen again. So here are my concerns. High school administration is speaking disrespectful to a parent whose child spoke up and advocated for someone who could not for themselves. The parents were not contacted, and we would like to see a school procedure that when a special needs student is involved in a situation that they are alerted. Lack of supervision in the locker room is also a concern, and we also we want to feel confident that the high school administration handles HIB appropriately and that there is no oversight, as I feel that the high school administration in this case tried to whitewash the whole situation. And I would like to explain how the failures of the high school have affected me. The day I told the administration about the video, I was called a snitch by numerous students. I was bombarded by them at lunch, and I ended up in the bathroom crying, asking my mom to come sign me out of school because I had to go home because I was crying so bad. And the same administrator that was disrespectful to my mom ended up standing shoulder to shoulder with the student who did this while I ate lunch. And it seemed like they were trying to intimidate me. I can't even begin to tell you how intimidated they made me feel, but I'm not the instigator, neither was the victim. So why does it feel like the administration is helping the perpetrators and doing the victim a dishonor?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there anybody else?
I'd like to know what the total budget is, please. What's the bottom line number on the budget? Is it 16 million, 20 million?
Mr. Rossi.
Oh, I'm sorry. What was that?
Give your name and address.
Oh, it's Joe Rossi. I live in Bernardsville and at 101 Crest Drive. And you probably know me, see me on the fields and the streets and whatever. But anyway, what is the total budget of our Somerset Hills School District? 22 million? I know that, but I don't have the agenda. No one can answer that question?
Total budget is about
50 million? 50, you can't, okay, 50 what? I think I would know it. Anyway, I'm here to talk about the moving forward with the lights and the track. The track, we need the lights in before the track is built. I've studied it, I looked at it, I talked to people, I got quotes, and we're ready to go with the very simple, very affordable. It's not $1.5 million like your architect stood up on the stage and told us. It's 1/3 of that, okay? You'll be able to put lights on the field and light the field safely every night till 9 o'clock so that our kids in this town and the district can play safely on that field. There's no reason to stop it, to not do it. It doesn't affect anyone. There's no glare. You've seen the photos. You've seen everything. But what you're doing by us not moving forward on the town and on the school, we are restricting our kids, so many kids that we have playing. I don't know what would have happened if me and my friends haven't built all these fields. You have to complete the lower field. That's very important. I was happy to hear what you said, that you got a hold of T&M. Is that true? Thank you. T&M, I have given this school district all the plans, completed plans, that showed everything from drainage to everything. You've had them. There's no reason for the upper field and the lower field. All you have to do is, months ago, look at them, bring T&M in, work with them. The drainage thing would have been taken care of. We could have moved forward already on the lower field, and we would have saved a lot of money on the upper field, okay? So all I'm saying is that, what is the problem with moving forward with the lights? I could take it out of my pocket probably and pay for it. Why are you holding it up? We need those fields. We need to do it at Little League because we don't have enough fields there. We need to do it at Polo Grounds because we don't have enough fields. Give us a break. You have the money. You have it in the account. There was $350,000 that was put away because I knew you weren't going to maintain the turf field when we donated it to you. And that's exactly what happened. It was only $2,600 twice a year to do it. You never did it. You ran it into the ground by the 10th year, and you went to the 15th year. You've gotten more than enough out of the $1 million gift. Now stand up, give us the fields that we need here to keep the kids on this campus and not transporting them back and forth. Because all those fields up there, we worked very hard to raise the money and build them and donate them. Very little was given by the town there. Evan Cow was built with my friends for 500 and some thousand, state-of-the-art grass field. There's power there, there's water there. Please, let's do what we have to do to get these fields done, okay? Thank you.
Mr. Rossi, thank you.
If you have any questions, I'm 24/7. I'll answer any question. I will deliver any plan.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anybody else? Mr. Walsh.
I have to speak quickly here. So let's cut to the chase. On March 19th, after 5 months of working with Jeremy Schwartz, your IT director, and for the first 3 months, him giving us the impression that after all the help and the free guidance and the one-on-one sessions with our technicians at no charge, that things were looking pretty good for us, but he needed other choices. No problem. He mentioned that, like I said, that Ginny wanted to talk to her friend at Atlantic tomorrow because they had a reference in the Wayne School District where Ginny used to work. Fine. Now, in a private situation, you want to work with a friend, no problem, but this is supposed to be open, transparent. It's a public school in the state of New Jersey. On March 19th, I got a call from Jeremy Schwartz saying that Ginny DeMarco was going with Atlantic tomorrow as her choice, at which time I said, we never gave you or Ginny or the superintendent our proposal, our pricing, or our referrals. He said that was not necessary, it wouldn't be looked at, and that price didn't matter, which the taxpayers might want to know that. Anyway, he then said, we thought at that time it was important to send our proposal, referrals, and pricing, which was $3,000 a month cheaper than the current vendor, to the superintendent, Mrs. DeMarco, and Jeremy Schwartz. We got a call the next morning, an angry call from IT Director Jeremy Schwartz, livid that we sent an email out with just our proposal and our pricing and our referrals. What would make anybody angry about that? He told me directly, and my colleague Mike Russo, that Ms. DeMarco was so incensed that we sent out our proposal and our numbers that she signed with Atlantic tomorrow that very night out of spite. She was enraged. Those were Jeremy Schwartz's words. Jeremy Schwartz went on to tell me that our company has just lost any chance of ever doing business with Bernards High School. So, given my family history, I would have expected a fair and equal opportunity. There's a lot of talk and on the website about non-discrimination. You know, how about fairness, openness, transparency? I had a call with Dr. Brotchell after we sent the proposal. We had a nice conversation. I explained everything to him. He said he was going to get to the bottom of it, and would he mind if I called him back? I said, no, absolutely, I'd like a call back. I never got the call back. I was also told through the grapevine that he stuck his head in to Jenny and Jeremy and said, I thought you guys had this covered, which is kind of shirking responsibility, if you ask me, if you want to get to the bottom of something. Anyway, I received an email that didn't even say my name. It said, hello.
Mr. Walsh, that's your,
This is the last.
that's
Well,
your
you,
3
I mean,
minutes.
you guys had an hour's. I mean, I
Okay,
have to
but
say
the-
this.
but I'm sorry,
I know,
sir,
but I have
these
to
are the
say this.
rules
I have to
for
say
our-
this. I know, but it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I mean, you
Mr.
guys
Walsh, your
go on
time is
for
up.
hours.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Mr. Walsh, thank you. Your time is up. Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Your time is up.
And I wanted you to know that personally. Kind of a kiss-off email.
Can I finish his comments for him?
No.
As a private citizen?
No, you cannot act in the capacity as a member of the public while seated at a board table.
I'd like to know. I'm glad the attorney was here.
I just wanted to add.
Just restate your name, please.
My
I'm
name's
sorry.
Julia Benz,
Thank
and I
you.
would just like to add on to what I said, that I'm really upset with this school because it's supposed to be making kids into role models by the teachers and staff being role models, and we are so lacking in the staff being role models. The admin, they are being petty, as younger than high schoolers are being petty, and then on top of that, they are not helping the kids who are at a disadvantage at all.
Thank you. Is there anybody else for public comment? Can I get a motion to close public comment, please? Mr. Grandpré, second? Ms. Nathans, thank you. Supplementary matters. The views and opinions that are or may be expressed by individual members of the Somerset Hills Board of Education during supplementary matters are solely those of the individual board members and do not reflect the views, opinions, policies, regulations, and/or positions of the Somerset Hills Board of Education and/or any other individual members of the board. Is there anybody that has anything for supplementary matters?
I just want to applaud the young woman who stood up. I know it wasn't easy, and I'm very proud of you.
It was very easy.
Good. I'm glad it was easy for you. Good on you.
Is there anybody else?
Given the bravery here, it is hard not to regret my earlier votes. I just want to have that on record.
Okay. Is there anybody else? I don't feel uncomfortable as long as you're not directing it to an individual. It's perfectly fine as long, I thought you meant you were going to be responding to a member. Okay. Is there anybody else?
I do, just in light of Mr. Joyce's comments, Mr. Weiss, pursuant to Robert's Rules of Order, I believe that according to the document I have called boardeffect.com, a member may make a motion to reconsider something that was already disposed. It's not.
Yeah, it can be done. I don't know if it's Robert's rules, but I will tell you that typically, should a board member wish to change their vote, it needs to be done no later than the following meeting at which the vote occurred, and it would have to be by way of a motion and then passage by the full majority to allow the board member to change the vote, is my recollection off the top of my head as I sit here now at 5 minutes to 11.
Could you just reach out to me about that in the next day or so?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that goes for everybody, for any vote. Ms. DeMarco asked me if it can be changed now. My recollection, again, is that it can be changed up until the following board meeting. The next board meeting is the deadline. If it's not done by then, at the end of that meeting, then it can't be undone, is my recollection.
Can I make a motion to reopen the facilities and operations board 5 and 6, please? I'd like to reverse my vote and just elaborate on the fact that there are specific instances, as if I disagree with everything, but just given again the bravery tonight and the process and the elaboration, the infancy of HIVs, I'm going to reverse my vote.
So, Mr. Joyce, just for the record, is that you're changing your vote on both, on 4, 5, and 6, on all of them?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I too would like to change number 4.
Wait, hang
Or do
on,
we
hang
need to make another motion?
No, we have to do one at a time.
Sorry.
So, under the circumstances, and since we have not adjourned the meeting, I don't think it's an issue for Mr. Joyce to change it now by letting us know that he's doing it, as opposed to at the next meeting, we would have to do a motion and all
He
that.
doesn't need a motion.
My recollection,
You
again,
could just change it.
yeah, because the meeting hasn't been closed, so I don't think it's an issue if he were to change it now at this meeting.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you, Mr. Joyce, number 4,
No,
okay? And number 5,
no,
and number 6.
no.
So these are FNO number 4, 5, and 6. 1 second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Motion still carries on 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Motion still carries on number 5. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Motion still carries on number 6.
So I just want to say, I think that some of this underscores the conversations that we're having as the importance of our role as board members and understanding when we make votes, what we're actually voting on. Because sometimes things get conflated and we have to understand the procedure. So I just kind of, again, want to endorse board training, which I know we're really working hard to get on our plate, and making sure, that we understand our roles, what's board business, where it's supposed to be discussed, how it's supposed to be discussed, how, votes work. I think this is all critical to being a successful board for our district.
I think I would agree with that. I think as part of our certification, we should certainly add in additional governance training.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there anybody else? I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
And a second? Anybody?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Garmpray, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Good night.